I wanted to, yeah, please. I want to thank Lanny Donald for giving us moments of truth and teaching us some great points in how to keep the club vibrant and how to meet those moments when people really do make a decision about where the club's going to go or whether they're going to stay or go in the club. I know when I was working with that club and we had so few members, one of the first things that I did when I started was to go through moments of truth and say, okay, these are things that we could do better. And that included starting an induction, buying a hoard of membership pins so that we could hand those out. Now, I'm going to be presenting the next section, which is something that I had a lot of experience in, how to deal with meetings for very small meetings, because we had some that had only about 4 people present. Now, what I want to ask you is when you have a Toastmaster meeting, what is the #1 most important role in a Toastmaster meeting?
General evaluator.
General evaluator, I hear.
Chair.
Why don't we write some of these down? We've got your general evaluator, you got your chair, or it's often called your Toastmaster.
Agenda.
That's not a role.
Oh, role, sorry.
What is the most important role, Grace?
Timer.
Timer, okay.
Speaker.
Speaker.
Table topics leader.
Okay, table topics. You need a master, and of course you need speakers. Anything else?
Evaluator.
Evaluator. Now, if this is our list of important roles, what is the #1 most important role in a meeting?
Chairman.
Okay, if you have a meeting with only a chairman, is that much of a meeting?
The chairman has to be creative.
The chairman would certainly have to be creative if they were basically the only role.
They're all
Members.
important.
All the roles are important, but a Toastmaster meeting is defined by really 2 critical roles. Every Toastmaster meeting has to have a speech. It needs to be from a manual, and it needs to be evaluated. If you don't have those, you don't really have a Toastmaster meeting. Having a chair is very useful for keeping things in line and keeping things moving. Table topics is extremely valuable. It's great practice. But picture this. I want to ask, can you have a meeting with 2 people? 2 people.
Yes.
It can be a meeting. It's a very small meeting. It'd be pretty short. But one person can give a speech, the other evaluates it. In fact, they can both give a speech and both evaluate. They can switch roles. You could even do a bit of table topics if you wanted to, if you get real creative. But even with 2 people, you can have a meeting as long as you do a speech. Now, what roles here could you do without?
All the rest of them.
Pretty much all the rest of them, Marilee.
General evaluator.
Yeah, you could do it without the general evaluator. One of the things that I did for a while the club was really small, is we didn't do a general evaluator as a role. We did it around the table, so that everybody got a chance to pitch in and try and give a bit of feedback to the meeting in general or to somebody. And it functioned quite well. It's more effective when you have somebody really watching and listening for the whole meeting. But it got more participation, although when you have 5 people at a meeting, everybody participates. But people were also more focused, and that worked well. One of the roles that we haven't listed here is grammarian or awe counter. And I know some clubs do that as 2 separate roles. Somebody listens for ums and ahs. Someone else listens for grammar and language. I've even seen a 3rd role, a person who specifically counts the word of the day. In a big club, you could have 3 roles to deal with that. Now, if you have a small club, one person can do all of that. And one of the things that I've found is that when you have a smaller club and your meetings are smaller, you don't want to have people doing too many jobs at the same meeting over and over again. People are willing to double up roles and maybe evaluate partner for one speech and be the table topics master, or 2 different roles. Sometimes even 3 different roles when you just don't have the numbers. But what I've really experienced is that if people are doing 3 roles every meeting, they get tired. And they're not going to stay unless there's something really compelling. So try and keep your roles down so that people do only about 2 roles each. Preferably, get them to 1 role each. That would be ideal. And one of the things that you can do, if you've had a bigger club, and you've had roles like, say, a separate grammarian and a separate odd counter, that could be, that if you're treating them separate, then you'd have 2 different people doing them, or 1 person doing both roles, and be counted as doubling up. If instead, you combine them into 1 role, and just call it the grammarian, and say the grammarian also counts the ums and ahs, and also counts the word of the day, it becomes 1 role in the mind of the people doing it. And that's not as bad. It's also the case, I've seen a lot of clubs have a chair who runs pretty much the whole meeting, except there's a Toastmaster as a separate role who introduces the speakers and evaluators. Works great when you got the numbers. Again, that can be combined and have just 1 chair, or call it the Toastmaster, who introduces everybody. It's a bigger role, but again, it's 1 role. Now, what I'd like us to do is work with the idea where you've got a meeting and you've got 4 people in attendance. What kind of a meeting can you have with 4 people?
Small.
A short one.
A small meeting, a short meeting, that's pretty given. But I think you could fill an hour.
Oh, absolutely. Easily.
You could have
A lunchtime club only is an hour, so for them that's not a short meeting. But who would do what roles? Say we've got, here's our 4 people. What roles are we going to use, or what are we going to need?
Chair.
Okay.
Speaker.
Speaker
Evaluator.
and evaluator.